walk you through the steps on how to create a drawing in Onshape. So I'm going to go ahead and open my CAD blocks document. Once I have that open, I'm going to click the little plus sign to insert a new element, and we're going to create a drawing. There's a couple of template options that open up. I'm going to choose ANSI A-inch template because that's an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. An ANSI D template is a 22 by 34 inch sheet of paper. And so I'll go ahead and click OK. That the document opens, and I have a box that opens up that says select a part or assembly. And so in this case, we're going to go ahead and we are going to dimension or create a drawing for part number 15. And so if I look at the view orientation, when I click part 15 to put it in, it's selecting the front view. If you guys look at your CAD blocks drawing, the front view should be the view that shows this shape. And so on every one of these drawings, the front view should be this view right here that's oriented correctly that way. And so if that's not the case for your part, depending on which plane you created it in, you can change the view orientation to whatever truly should be the front view. And so if I drew it in the wrong orientation or a different orientation, I could choose right view and I could use that as the front view of my drawing. In this case, this front view is correct, so I'm going to go ahead and click to place that front view on my drawing sheet. I'm going to drag a line directly above that, and I'm going to click to place the top view. And so I've placed those two views. I'm going to go ahead and hit escape on my keyboard to show you how to project views based on other views. And so up here is the project view tool. And so I'm going to click that, and then I can click on the view I want to project it from. And so I'm going to click on the front view, and I can project over a right side view. And I can also come up here and click on the front view and project a isometric view of my part. And so once I've done that, again, I'll hit escape on the keyboard, and I just wanted you to watch what happens. When I move the front view, notice how the other two views move, and they always stay lined up. And so that's the case with an orthographic projection. Just like when we drew them by hand, we want those views to line up. And so the software does that automatically for us. The next thing we're going to talk about is once we have these views placed, there's some things we want to create with them or show in them that aren't showing. And so on the isometric view, we're always going to want to show the shaded view. And so I'll go ahead and click to make this a shaded view. And on our projections, we're always going to want to show hidden lines. So I'll right click again on the front view and select show hidden lines. I'll do the same for the top view and for the right side view. So once you have those hidden lines shown, the first thing that I always do with my prints is I am going to put center marks and center lines in first. And so up here's the center mark tool. I'll simply click on that, and I will click to add a center mark for the 3 holes in the top view and the 1 hole in the front view. I'm then going to click to use edge-to-edge center line, and I'm going to put in these center line bisectors again for the hole in the top view and for these holes in the front view, and also for these holes in the right side view. So once I have those center lines in, I'm ready to start dimensioning my drawing. So the first thing I'm going to do to dimension my drawing is I'm going to dimension the width of the part. And so again, width dimensions run from left to right in the front view and left to right in the top view. And so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to get my dimension tool. And the first thing I run into moving across the object is the location dimension for this hole at the top view. And so I'm going to click on this point of the object, the left edge of the top view. And then I'm going to click on the center line point, and I'm going to drag down that dimension of 0.375. Notice I have an option where I place it. I can place it between the extension lines. That looks a little crowded to me, so I'm going to click to place that dimension outside of those extension lines, and when it's where I want it, I will click to place that dimension. I'll continue moving from left to right across the object to dimension the rest of the part. And so the next thing I run into is the center mark for this hole. I could do it in the top view, but that's not the view that shows the hole as a circle, so I'll dimension that in the front view here. So I'll zoom in a little bit on the front view. Again, I'll click this point and my center line, and I will draw up that line, and I'll click to place the dimension. Continuing to move from left to right across the object. The next thing I have is the overall, the size of this feature, this standout feature on the part. So again, I'll do that on the front view because it shows the detail better than the top view. So I'll click this point and I'll come across and select this point, and I'll drag up that dimension, and I'll click to place it. Next thing I run into is the location dimension for, well, actually the next thing I run into is this edge for that fillet that is in the part. I'll dimension that later with the radius tool. So the next thing I run into is this center mark for this line. I could do that in, again, the front view, but the top view is better because it shows the actual hole. And so to do this one, I'm going to click the center of that hole and the center of this hole, and I'm going to drag down my dimension. And notice when I put this dimension in, it's kind of snapping in place for me. And so I want it to line up directly with that other dimension. And so I have a pink horizontal line. When I click, that pink horizontal line is telling me that it's going to line up directly. Now, one thing you notice about this is that 0.75 is not in the middle of that dimension line. And so we want that 1.75, that dimension, to be in the center of the dimension line. So I'm going to move it until it's in the center. All right, so I have those location dimensions. The last thing I run into, again, moving from left to right, is the overall width of the object. I'm going to choose to do that down here in the front view beneath the object, so I don't have to draw a long extension line. So I'll click to place that dimension right there. And so that takes care of our width dimensions. The next thing we're going to look at are height dimensions. So height dimensions run from bottom to top in both the front view and the right side view. And so again, I'll start at the base and work my way up. First thing I'll do is click to add this height for this standout. I could do it in either the front or the right view. It probably doesn't matter because they both show the detail. And in this case, I can simply click the line and it will put the dimension in for me. And so once I've done that, I'll click and place the dimension. I then will move going up the object. The next thing I run into is the location dimension for the hole. And so I'll click on my base point. I'll click on this point and I will drag that dimension out. And I'll place it on my drawing. And now if you look at that, I drew a long extension line through the object. So I'm going to actually edit that and put it on the left side of the front view. So I'll right click and say delete that dimension. And then I'll add it again over here so I can avoid drawing that long extension line. So that looks better. A lot of people would think that I need to dimension the top of the circle here. We will dimension that with a radius, and we'll do that after we have the height, width, and depth dimensions in. So there's no need to know the overall height of this object from the base point to here. Lastly, we have the depth dimensions. Depth dimensions run from left to right in the right side view and from bottom to top in the top view. I'm going to move my isometric view a little bit for now so I can make sure I put these dimensions in. And so again, moving from left to right, the first thing I run into is this line, and that represents this little radius that's on the outside edge. So I'll dimension that with the radius tool later. The next thing I run into is the location dimension and the depth for our hole. And so I'll do that in the top view because it shows the detail best. So I'll click that point and that point, and I'll put my dimension in. One thing you notice is it draws a pink line through because that's lining up those dimensions. And we do want those dimensions to line up. So when that pink line is active, you can click and it will line up the dimension for you. The next thing we run into is this edge, which represents this feature right here, this standout feature. I could do that up here in the top view, but it shows the detail better in the right side view. So I'm going to dimension that right here. And again, when I get the pink line, it will line that dimension up for me. And that's what I want to do. Again, moving from left to right, I have the center mark. I have this. I need a location dimension for this other hole. And so I'll do that again in the top view because it shows the detail best. Line up my dimension, and I'll put that in. And then lastly, I need a overall depth dimension for the overall depth of the object. And I'm going to go ahead and do that right up here in the top view. So I'll place that dimension. Lastly, we'll need to dimension the hole features and the radiuses on our part. And so to do that, I'm going to first do the holes. And so I'm going to click this hole callout tool. So I'll click on that, and then I'm going to click on my hole here. And notice that it gives me a callout for that hole. It tells me that it's a 250 thousandth hole, and it goes all the way through the part. And so I'm going to go ahead and click to place that. And then I'm going to double click on that note for the hole, and I'm going to type in a 3x. And so what that 3x does is that tells us that all three of these holes are exactly the same. And so there's no need to dimension all of them because I put a note that all three of the holes are the same. So they're all 250 thousandths and they go through the object. The next thing I'm going to dimension is my other hole. And so I'll click this. I will drag a dimension down here for my other hole in my part, and I'll click to place that. I'll then get the dimension tool, and I'm going to click to dimension these radiuses. And so this radius here, I'm going to dimension first. I'm making sure that my leader lines come out at approximately the same angle. And I'll go ahead and click to place that dimension. I'm actually going to move it down a little more. And then I'm going to go ahead and double click on that, and in front of the R, I'm going to type in a 2x because both of those radiuses are the same. Next radius I'll dimension is the one down here for this little fillet. Again, I'll position that leader line how I want it. I can zoom in to gain a little bit more control over it. And I'll place that on that dimension on my part. I want to double check is to make sure that none of my dimension lines cross each other, that none of the dimension lines go over the boundary edge of my sheet, and none of them are in the title block here. And so that'll be a really important step to take. The last thing I'm going to do is come down here to my title block, and I'm going to go ahead and type in CAD blocks for the name of the sheet. On the second line, I'm going to type in the course name, and so I'm just going to type in IED. And on the third title line, I'm going to type in Newton High School. Working within a document that has multiple parts and you need multiple sheets, what you're going to do is come up here and install new drawing by clicking the plus. You're just going to click to add a new sheet to the same drawing. And now you have a new sheet and it says it's 2 of 2. And so that's how you'll add different sheets. PDF of your sheets, you'll go ahead and go up here to the Onshape and you'll click print. And it will generate a PDF for you to download and submit your sheets to Canvas.